Welcome to episode 144, How to Cross-Sell Aviation Products and Services.
144 episodes.
Yeah, and cross-selling, who knew? Do we do that in aviation?
Apparently so.
Apparently we
be
do.
Talking about it.
Exactly. So this is how the rest of the world does cross-selling. So first of all, I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help all you folks out there in the aviation world sell more products and services.
Absolutely. And I got so excited about this topic that I forgot to introduce ourselves. But anyway, this is how the rest of the world does cross-selling, and this is how most of you guys and us too, probably think about cross-selling 99% of the time. It's a fabulous option if you are selling fast food or anything else.
Do you want fries with that?
Do you want fries with that? That is the classic example of cross-selling, is when someone is at the point of making a purchase, figuring out what would add to that experience and providing that at a minimal extra cost at the time when they have the least amount of resistance. And it works so well for McDonald's that they actually made a movie called Super Size Me, right?
Uh-huh.
And talked about how unhealthy and horrible that is. So we're not going to talk about any of that today.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. We're going to talk about the idea of cross-selling and how it can actually be helpful, right? Okay. First of all, it costs you about 5 to 10 times, depending on what study you're reading, more to get a new customer than to just increase the size of a sale to an existing customer.
Oh, yeah.
And that is true whether we're talking about fast food or whether we're talking about business jets. So same principle applies, but you have to apply it a lot differently, right?
They used to call it mining.
Mining?
Yeah, mining your current customers.
Mining your current customers. That's a terrible word. I don't like that.
Well, I was just saying what they used to call it.
Okay, that's
Back
fine.
in the day.
We like our customers. We don't mind them. All right. So the worst thing that you can say to Paula, not necessarily the worst thing, but one of the worst things that you can say to Paula is...
That would be you.
Exactly. I didn't know that you also did fill in the blank, right? Mm-hmm. Websites, brochures, SEO, postcards, press releases, digital marketing, Facebook, sales training, full service marketing, podcast production, any number of other things. Whenever a customer tells me, I just went out and had somebody redo our website because I didn't know that you did websites, and now it's all screwed up and I spent a bunch of money and I'm really unhappy, and gosh darn it, why didn't you tell me you did websites before I went out and did this? That drives me crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason it drives me crazy is because it means I didn't do my job as a marketing professional to let people know what we have and to serve all their needs and to anticipate their needs, right? That's my job. Same thing could be said. One of our customers' name is Doug. I didn't know you also did charter, maintenance, management, repairs, 100-hour inspections, crew management, bookkeeping, ADs, any number of other things. So, this list could go on for days. And for a lot of our customers, they sell a lot of different things. So they need to make sure that they are selling as much as they can to their customers.
Which means you have to communicate with your customers.
Exactly. And when you're talking about, the types of folks that do aviation, they like their life to be as simple and convenient as it possibly can be. So if they can get more services from fewer people, they actually enjoy that better than having to chase all over town to get everything done, right?
Of course.
Right. Okay. So we've got a couple of examples. Actually, we've got several examples. And what these examples have in common is that they are not the McDonald's version of this. They apply to wealthy customers, high net worth and ultra high net worth customers, right? They apply to educated and convenience-oriented customers. So we're not going to insult anybody's intelligence today. I hope not, anyway. And also, this applies to American traditional aviation demographics. So it may seem a little stereotypical because we're trying to hit the middle of the market, which is where 80% of the profits are. So there are always margins, there's always borders, and we can discuss that at length in the comments. I'm sure you've got examples that fall outside that target sweet spot of the middle of the demographics, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. which is a nice way of saying this is not going to be incredibly politically correct or diverse. And for that, I apologize in advance. But here we are.
It's
banking.
Business.
It is business, right? So I used to work for Wells Fargo before they became evil, right? And they're not evil. They just were drawn that way. Anyway, the digital divide was a topic, and also the share of wallet was a big topic of conversation when I was working at Wells Fargo. The reason is because they knew that it costs a lot more to get a new customer than to simply sell more to their existing customers. And so their strategy was to sell at least 7 financial products to each customer. A home loan, a car loan, a student loan, a checking account, a savings account. You could go on for forever, but 7 seems like an awful lot of financial products. But when you count, the individual bank cards and the individual insurances and other services that they offer, it's not that hard, given a person's demographics, to get 7 products per customer. And also, a person that had 7 products with Wells Fargo was a lot more likely to come to Wells Fargo for any other financial needs than to wander off into the desert looking for another financial institution, right?
Yep.
Okay. So they became somewhat overzealous about this, and that's news items that you can find elsewhere. We're not going to talk about those today. The point is, it is not a terrible goal to want to get more of your services into the hands of your customers, because every one that you get increases the likelihood that their next product will be one of yours instead of one of your competitors. So each product increases what they call the stickiness and convenience of every other product. So you have a savings and a checking and a student loan and a da-da-da-da and direct deposit, then it makes it much easier to pay your mortgage from your checking account and your student loan from your whatever.
Which means that all of the multiple financial institutions that we use have failed.
Right, because we have a dozen banks,
I don't know how many, yeah.
and
it's something for every different thing.
Exactly, because we have different needs for different products and things like that. But for a lot of folks, they like the convenience of having everything in one place and having everything in one folder and one person that they talk to about all their financial situation and everything else. So wealth management, trust accounts, wills, all that stuff is at one place, and that makes people happy. They also look for the demographics that are most likely to have more products. So people who do their banking online are more likely to have more financial products for lots of reasons. Okay, so that's banking, and that applies to wealthy people. Basically anybody above middle class or above, right? So you can use those same strategies and statistics without having done the ton of research and everything else that Wells Fargo has done.
Right.
And all the Harvard Business Review and Gartner group that we used to drag into meetings by the ton and discuss that every week. They've done that research. You don't have to. You can just copy what they did. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
You can take their word for it.
You can take their word for it, that is a fact. Okay. Apple products, and I can say this as an Apple addict. My whole life I can sit here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Apple products standing here, right? Mm-hmm. And there's more in the other room. So our house is pretty Apple-fied, right? Apple-centric. So every Apple product
at least.
Yeah, and our Apple TV. And we've got a ton of different Apple products. And every time we need a technology product, we are a lot more likely to purchase an Apple product because it works with all the rest of our stuff without spending a lot of time. And the last thing in the world we want to do is spend more time futzing with the technology, right?
Yeah, the stuff just works.
Most of the time.
And when it doesn't, it's a fairly easy fix.
Right, and it's 1,000 times simpler if we're going Apple product to Apple product. So, if we have something on our phone that we're trying to make work with our Apple TV or vice versa, it's 1,000 times easier than if we got an Android and imported a funky app that's supposed to be
and we used to be on the other side of the game.
And didn't have any Apple products.
And didn't have anything Apple. Mm-hmm. And I forgot what started us down that road.
That was your Mac Mini for a trade show.
Oh, for a trade show.
Right.
Because I'd heard that it had better graphics.
A better graphics card.
Well, not a card, but graphics capability for presentation.
Right.
And it did.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we got back from the trade show, I started using it as my desktop because I needed to replace it anyway. And I thought,
and
wow.
The quality was higher than you expected.
Yeah, this thing really works. And then I did a 6-month study, and we converted the entire office, both of them, to Apple products, and haven't even looked back.
I know, and I have to laugh because when I was at the University of Utah with all the art kids, and they were all using apples, and I wanted Apple products, and you always talked me out of it because of the
well,
exclusivity.
at the time, they didn't communicate with anything else easily.
Exactly, and they still communicate with other Apple products much more easily. But the point is, every product or service that you buy from Apple increases the likelihood that the next technology product or service that you buy will be from Apple, right? Okay. Now, let's talk about something near and dear to the hearts of a lot of folks who are sales folks, right? Okay. So Salesforce has a fairly standard subscription pricing model, but it imposes storage and user limits and breaks its subscriptions into carefully designed modules of increasing functionality. So what that means is that you're always bumping into the limits of what you need, depending on what you're doing. If you've ever been a Salesforce customer, York says, then you know that 90% of the upgrade process consists of you, the customer, repeatedly bumping your head on your current subscription. 2 things to learn from this. One is the subscription model. So it is 1,000 times easier to maintain a customer on a subscription model than it is to go hunt every month for new customers. You can also charge them a whole lot less because it is a month-to-month service. Most of what we do in aviation could be considered a service, and it is needed on an ongoing basis. So a lot of things could be put on a subscription model that maybe are not now. So it's a lot more palatable to consumers than it was 5 or 10 years ago. I know you hate the subscription model as a consumer, right?
Exactly.
But a lot of folks have become a lot more accepting of it in recent years as they discover the convenience of it. So you can get razors by subscription nowadays in the mail. You can get a lot of things delivered to you from Amazon via subscription. So your coffee creamer, the stuff you never want to run out of. You get a little bit of a discount if you do it on a subscription model, and it's flexible enough and transparent enough that most people feel comfortable with that nowadays.
If you can figure out that you buy whatever it is on a frequent and regular basis, then it's probably a good thing for both people because you get it when you want it and they can project their cash flow.
Exactly. So if you offer any kind of a product or service that is a recurring or consumable or something like that, you might want to consider a subscription service if you haven't already, just to keep that service going in a really comfortable way for yourself and for your customers, right? Okay. And consider the size of those packages so that people are upgrading appropriately. So you've got a lower priced package, and then people are encouraged to upgrade when appropriate so that you're covering your costs in a way that's appropriate to what they're using.
True.
Right? Okay. Harley Davidson, one of your favorites, right? So if we called Wells Fargo your share of wallet, we could call Harley Davidson your share of weekend. They try to consume people's weekends.
Was that a picture we took?
No, this is from Sturgis last year. So
last year.
Right.
Okay, we were there a few years ago.
We were. They have, of course, the Bike Week in Sturgis, South Dakota.
Yep.
And they have charity rides just about every weekend in just about every city for just about any cause you can think of. Most of them have to do with the military or different diseases, or children especially, that are their favorite causes. They have products and services that you wouldn't even believe. This is some limited edition beer. This is a Harley bedroom with the pillow covers and bedspread and everything else. These are Harley Davidson cupcake paper things, right? I kid you not. They have, the little paper things that you bake cupcakes in so that they don't stick to the pan. with Harley-Davidson logos on them so that you can have a Harley-Davidson birthday party for somebody with Harley-Davidson cupcakes. Mm-hmm. Seriously. Anything that you can think of, there is a Harley-Davidson version of that probably. Right?
Yep.
Especially if it has to do with weekends, if it has to do with fun, if it has to do with charity, if it has to do with their key demographics, which is males, college-educated, high net worth, and up. That demographic is really what they're after. And they really want to consume their weekends, and they do a darn good job of making that happen, right?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Let's talk about ABCI. Not quite as famous as Harley-Davidson yet. Okay.
In stereo.
Right. Okay, so we provide a prospect information package, which is our infamous blue folder. If you've ever gotten a blue folder from us, then you know what that is. A lot of our products and services are based on a subscription model. Mm-hmm. We provide catalogs to cross-sell different products to people who we are already selling products to. We have an onboarding process to make sure that our customers get to know us and get to know our process and have a really good first impression, first 90 days. We've got checklists for that to do our best with that, and welcome packages which include all those materials. So we also have networking events.
Yes, we do.
To make sure that our customers get to know each other to help improve that experience for everybody, mm-hmm. right? Okay, so this is one of our packets that includes our social media guide, catalog, CDs, business cards, all that stuff, and it comes in a nice blue folder. So what this does is if somebody thinks that they need a brochure, we send them a whole blue folder that has a whole range of services, range of products and services, information about us, customer testimonials, what it's like to get started with us, all of that information, as well as a catalog of services. So they may decide, you know what, I don't need a brochure, I need a trade show.
Or whatever.
Yeah, package or whatever. So they may not have known that that was available or that we offered it or that they could afford it or whatever the situation is. This is a bookcase or a bookshelf of somebody who is a client of ours with a whole bunch of sales and marketing and aviation books on it. We just did our book club last week. Mm-hmm. So we really do try to provide all of that support and service and everything else to make our service as sticky as possible.
Exactly.
This is our catalog. So if you have services, you should make sure that each of your customers gets your catalog at least once a year with updated pricing and what new products you have, because a lot of times they just don't know mm-hmm. What you have, or they may not remember from last year what products you happen to have, just because they weren't looking at the time, it didn't hit their radar and they weren't interested, so they had no reason to look for it.
Exactly.
Okay. And networking events are great because people love other people and love associating with each other, and those relationships are really what we're after.
Yep, and that one's one of our breakfasts.
That's one of our breakfasts at NBAA, where we actually get to see people in person, not just via the interwebs.
That's right.
Right, okay. So how do you cross-sell? We're going to summarize this just a little bit. First thing is to create an array of products and services that are appealing to your target demographic, and whether you offer those yourself or whether you offer those through partners. We actually just talked with a gentleman who does upholstery that is a partner of one of our customers. So our customer, SSC in South Carolina, will take an airplane apart. These are aircraft maintenance folks. Will take the seats out, take the headliners out, take stuff out of the airplane, take it to an upholstery shop. They understand all the burn certs and all of the FAA requirements for everything that they do. They will do all the upholstery, make it all fabulous. The SSC guys will take it back to their shop, put the plane back together again, and people get a fabulous work that is done by people that do vintage cars and works of art. These wood spoke vintage cars that people pay a ton of money for. The same folks that do the interiors of those things will do the interior of your plane. And all of the work is done by aviation folks, all the taking out and putting in. So it's a great partnership. So even if it's a product or service that you can't offer yourself, you can find partners that you can make that seamless and convenient for your customers for, right?
Nice.
Yeah, no kidding. You want to set a goal for the number of products per customer you want to reach this year. So if you have X number of customers that only buy one product from you, see if you can make it 2 by the end of the year, right? Nothing wrong with that. That is a much easier sales goal than doubling your customer base.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So that is a worthy goal. Make sure your products and services interact well together and are more than the sum of their parts. So, for example, if you do search engine optimization and content with us, those work together to provide actually more than double the benefit of any of our products.
Yeah, that last phrase is important.
Right. Create a catalog and include it in your sales process, and make sure you get it into the hands of every one of your customers at least once a year. Maybe more than that. Have a new customer package that includes that information and also provides the likely cross-sells. So you know when a customer buys product A, they are likely to also want product C1 or something like that. You know, there's just a natural fit between some of your products and services.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that you're doing the suggesting.
And if there's not, you should consider making it so.
Exactly. And you'll learn from experience what people want at the same time and just make that part of your process the next time. Have an anniversary package for your customers. Now, this is something that we need to do, and we like to do it every year at Thanksgiving because we're thankful for our customers, and it's easier for us to do it once a year than to figure out all of the Aprils and all of the Mays and all of the Junes and all the Julys. So it's easier for us to just do that once a year and make sure everybody gets a package once a year. Okay, so then you will not end up with people asking the question, I didn't know you also did
that stuff.
Whatever it is. And that's really what we're trying to avoid here, is making sure that they get served better and you get more sales.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So if you would like to talk about our Aviation Marketing Lab, this is where we do a lot of this nitty-gritty work of figuring out, okay, so what do you sell? What else could you sell? And how could we offer that? And how can we work out the nuts and bolts of your sales process to make that work better and not in an awkward, icky, would you like fries with that sort of way, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And you actually get to work with like-minded aviation sales and marketing professionals. So you're not working with real estate folks. You're not working with overhyped weirdos from Amway, right? You're working with real aviation people.
And they won't dance with you. They'll tell you straight out what they think's wrong with what you're trying to do.
Right.
Make suggestions how to improve it.
And you'd much rather hear it from them than from your customers, right?
Oh boy.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so they tell you what really works and what doesn't. You knew what was on that slide before you even put it up there.
Nope.
I'm so impressed.
No,
Okay.
of course you are.
So if you'd like to talk about our Sales and Marketing Lab, we do like to vet everybody that gets involved with that program because it is so important to us to make that chemistry work and make sure that it's just really great people in there. So schedule 30 minutes with us and let's talk about your company. If you are in aviation sales or marketing, we would love to talk to you about how you might be a good fit for that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Or call 702-987-1679 and schedule 30 minutes with us. We'd love to talk about what's on your plate and how we can help. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you next time.